Samuel Newton.
Here.
Ronnie Bush.
Here.
Deb Devine.
Here.
Rebecca Quiggle is absent. Charles Hilton.
Present.
Casey Anthony. Will be late. Dale Diddens.
Present.
Kurt Copleen.
Present.
Kevin Toomson.
Present.
Erica Monroe.
Here.
Ron Flegel.
Here.
Alvin Wire.
Present.
Larry Jogerst.
Present.
Nicole Baker.
Present.
Scott Helms.
Present.
Sally Brashaw is absent. Brian Brandt. Daniel Rohr.
Here.
Mark Biddens is absent. Garrett Miller.
Here.
Jerry Clay.
Here.
William Hadley.
Here. For the record, Mr. Mark Giddens called me today and he said he's homesick. Okay, at this time, Dale Diddens will lead us in prayer, and Mr. Flegel, can you lead us in the pledge after that then?
Heavenly Father, please bless this group as we come together to do our county business. Give us strength and understanding. Lord, please reach out and touch those in our communities that are suffering and ease their burdens. Bless those who work to protect us from harm. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda
So moved.
by Mr. Helms, second by Mr. Toomson. Any discussion? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Madam Clerk, read the consent agenda, please.
Approval of the August 18th, 2022 minutes. Approval of the August 23rd, 2022 minutes. Referring all claims on the clerk's desk to the proper committees without reading. Claims total $3,661,246.85. Approval of HD 2217, an ordinance for the establishment of an altered speed zone in Lorne.
At this time, does anybody want to remove anything from the consent agenda? Mr. Clay, go ahead.
C.
You want C removed? And Mr. Helms, go ahead.
Letter B, please. B
Letter-
like boy.
Okay, thank you. So we will be approving A and D. Madam Clerk, call roll, please.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Daniel Rohr.
Aye.
Garrett Miller.
Aye.
Jerry Clay.
Aye.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Deb Devine.
Aye.
Charles Hilton.
Aye.
Dale Diddens.
Aye.
Kurt Copleen.
Aye.
Kevin Toomson.
Aye.
Erica Monroe.
Aye.
Ron Flegel.
Aye.
Alvin Wire.
Here.
Larry Jogerst.
Aye.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Okay, at this time, motion to approve B
So moved.
by Mr. Dale Diddens, second by Mr. Wire.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Helms.
I'd like to make a motion to amend these minutes from the special meeting under approval of resolution authorizing an interfund loan. About a third of the way down the paragraph, it states, Mr. Helms further questioned if they had spoken to the other 9 taxing districts that are party to this TIF. I went back through and it should read, Chairman Hadley responded he had not done so. So my motion would be to amend and to add, Chairman Hadley responded he had not done so.
Second.
Okay, we got a second by Mr. Miller. Any discussion on this? I see none. Madam Clerk, call roll, please. Or I can do this. Yeah. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Let's see. Yeah, approve as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. B, approval C
So moved.
by Mr. Miller,
Second.
second by Mr. Thompson. Madam Clerk, call roll on this one.
Garrett Miller,
Aye.
Jerry Clay,
No.
Samuel Newton,
Aye.
Ronnie Bush,
Aye.
Deb Devine,
Aye.
Charles Hilton,
Aye.
Dale Diddens,
Aye.
Kurt Copeland,
Aye.
Kevin Toomson,
Aye.
Erica Monroe,
Aye.
Ron Flegel,
Aye.
Elvin Wire,
Yes.
Larry Jokers,
Aye.
Nicole Baker,
Aye.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Daniel Rohr,
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
1 no, motion carried.
Okay, motion carried. At this time, we'll go to public comment. Anybody, yes, ma'am, you can come up to the mic and you have 3 minutes. Ma'am, before you start, I want to read this. No discussion from the public is permitted on zoning issues which have been through the Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing process. Do you have any, are you going to be talking about the zoning issue?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Sure. I felt prompted tonight to express my concern as well as some concern of others and frustration and disappointment just with the current process in place, which is to not allow county residents to publicly comment at a county board meeting about concerns that they may have on a certain topic that is on your agenda tonight. It's particularly maddening when there was no county board representation at the concerns that several of us have. So tonight, I am just urging you to ask questions, find out more information, and be careful of what you may cast a yes vote for. And if you are not,
You're kind of going over the line of that issue. You know, you're talking about a zoning issue right now, telling the board members. So I'm not letting you continue on speaking on this zoning issue.
I didn't say that word, but thank you very much for your
Okay.
consideration.
Anybody else from the public wants to speak? Okay, at this time, we're gonna go into executive session on 5 ILCS 120/2C11 litigation when an action against an affecting or on behalf of a public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administration tribunal, and 5 ILCS 120/2C5, the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose and discussion whether parcels should be acquired. We're going to have a motion go into executive session.
So moved.
By Mr. Helms, second by Ms. Monroe. Any discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, call roll, please.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Daniel Rohr,
Aye.
Garrett Miller,
Aye.
Jerry Clay.
Yeah.
Is that a yes? Samuel Newton,
Aye.
Ronnie Bush,
Aye.
Deb Devine,
Aye.
Charles Hilton,
Aye.
Dale Diddens,
Aye.
Kurt Copeland,
Aye.
Kevin Toomson,
Aye.
Erica Monroe,
Aye.
Ron Flegel,
Aye.
Alvin Wire. Larry Jokers. Nicole Baker. William Hadley.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay.
Okay, we just came out of executive session on 5 ILCS 120/2C11 litigation when an action against an affecting or on behalf of a public body has been filed as pending before a court or administration tribunal. And 5 ILCS 120/2C5, the purchase or the lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose and discussion whether parcel should be acquired. No action was taken. We do have one action item. Could I have a motion on the approval of the agreement with R.E. Potnack LLC?
So moved.
By Mr. Helms. And second by Mr. Dale Diddens. Mr. Clay, go ahead.
So according to the executive session, and according to this agreement we have before us, are we purchasing or leasing property? Yes?
Yes, an interest in property,
And-
an easement.
So that's considered a buying property or a lease?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
And so how soon are we gonna vote on this?
Right now.
Right now, okay.
Yeah, they made the motion.
Then I have a comment to make.
Okay,
I am totally opposed to this project, from top to bottom. For us to take $6 million of taxpayers' money, or just money that the federal government created, and to throw it into a pipe that goes nowhere, is just plain foolishness. I mean, we've went mad in this county. This board has went mad. The bottom line is, we have roads to fix, and we have other things that could be done. And you know what? That's not what we're doing. We're taking a pipe dream to nowhere. And it's just one thing on top of another. And this is even past the cake and the candles on the cake. I mean, this is wow. And so that's my comment, Mr. Chairman.
okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, call roll, please.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Daniel Rohr.
Aye.
Garrett Miller.
Aye.
Jerry Clay.
No.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Deb Devine.
Aye.
Charles Hilton.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
Dale Diddens.
Aye.
Kurt Copeland.
No.
Kevin Toomson.
Aye.
Erica Monroe.
No.
Ron Flegel.
Aye.
Elvin Wire.
Yes.
Larry Jogerst.
No.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Fourteen yes, 4 no.
14 yes, 4 no, that passes. At this time, we'll move the zoning report. Ms. Haney.
Good evening. I would like to start off tonight with an excerpt that Mr. Larson has written. The exercise of the right to free speech is to be encouraged. However, in certain controversies, it is important that evidence and arguments be limited to specific times and places designated in advance so as to give both parties an equal opportunity to be heard and to challenge the claims of their opponents. For example, it is commonly understood that it would be inappropriate to attempt to influence a judge or members of a jury outside of a court or the presence of an opposing counsel. Legally, the right of both parties to a fair, uniform, and transparent proceeding is known as procedural due process and is derived from the Due Process Clause of the U.S. Constitution. Another example of where arguments and evidence are limited to a specific time and place is in the granting of a special use by a zoning board. Other than taxation, there are a few areas of government that generate as much animosity between citizens with opposing interests as issues of zoning. For that reason, in the area of land use, the Illinois legislature and our county code outlines specific procedures to be used when deciding matters such as these. The procedure in the case of the special use permits include a public hearing. In this case, there has been a public hearing and no one was prohibited from speaking for as long as they wished at that hearing. At the conclusion of that public hearing, the Zoning Board of Appeals considered all evidence and arguments before it made a recommendation to the board. That recommendation is included in the packets of each county board member. The law is clear and the board may adopt the recommendations of the ZBA. They may reject the recommendations, or the board may send this matter back to the ZBA for further proceedings, but the board may not hold additional public hearings at this time. If additional public hearings are held at the county board level, any subsequent decision made by the county board would be subject to legal challenge by the non-prevailing party, so that any arguments made during public comment would not only contrary to Illinois statute, they would also be likely counterproductive. It is therefore my recommendation that public comment not be allowed to address the issues of zoning. Okay. On to the agenda. The ZBA reconvened on Wednesday, August 24th to review and approve code amendment to Article 4, General Provisions. Section 400-23.6, General Standards for Recreational Vehicle Parks and Campgrounds. The board voted unanimously to approve the code amendment and with the revision that the setbacks are 150 feet from a residing dwelling. It was 75 feet.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Miller, second by Mr. Toops, and discussion on this. Mr. Clay, go ahead.
So explain what's the concern.
There's a current campground that is close to the property line of a residential dwelling, and it's loud, and the owner of the campground does not have the decency to move a camper away from the individual's property line, and it's obnoxiously noisy, and it's just what the ZBA recommended was 150 feet from a residential dwelling.
This was already in the rules, or this is something new we're putting in?
The 75 feet was in there, and now we're changing it to 150.
First of all, I'm opposed to the zoning department in the first place. When you own a piece of property, you ought to be able to do what you want with a piece of property. This business of changing the rules after something has happened to suit somebody is nonsense. I'd be a very perturbing neighbor to be against. But this is changing the rules after the fact.
We update our codes from time to time to...
I understand that, but the bottom line, we're changing this after the fact when somebody wants something changed.
This particular campground won't have to change their setbacks. This is for future campgrounds. They're grandfathered into the original ordinance. So if a new campground was to come into fruition in Stephenson County and it is located next to a residentially zoned district or a dwelling, then they would have to abide by the 150 feet.
Okay. I love grandfathering because that's what the rules are.
Is that it, Mr. Clay?
Yes,
Thank you. Mr. Helms, go ahead.
Just want some clarification. I think you had said that the noise was obnoxious at 75 feet.
Oh, yes.
So another 75 feet is going to
It's
make
really
it
not going to
less
make a
obnoxious.
difference. It's just more or less putting a little bit of extra feet in between them.
Okay, thank you.
I see no more discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
One nay. Go ahead.
The board then reviewed the code amendment to Article 4, General Provisions, subsection 400-23.7, General Standards for Battery Energy Storage Systems, BESS. The board voted unanimously to approve the code.
So moved.
By Mr. Newton, a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bush. Discussion. Mr. Flegel, go ahead.
Just a question, what defines a battery storage?
It is, I've got that right here. One moment, I've got notes. A battery consists of lithium-ion cells that are placed in a module and then turned into a rack that store the energy, a monitoring control system, and a power conversion system. The energy that is stored is then released during peak time. So it's an individual battery placed into racks, into modules, into the racks.
How many is this? This is for, do we have to, they have to have one for every 2.35 megawatt? That was roughly what we were several years ago.
It varies. Some sites want the battery energy storage, some do not. I have one we approved Thursday evening at the ZBA that doesn't have, last year that doesn't have battery energy storage. The 2 megawatts, some 5 megawatts don't, some 5 megawatts will, if allowed. Anything bigger will, more than likely.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Mr. Helms, go ahead.
So on section D, like David, number 9, it says no BESS or related structure shall be located closer than 25 feet.
Correct.
Feet, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, that needs to be changed.
And then if I go down to F, local fire department training equipment, cost of emergency response, in items 1, 2, and 3, I guess I would like to see some sort of a time frame put into this. It says that they'll provide this, but it doesn't say when. It doesn't really say what would happen if they don't.
It does state on an annual basis. So with the state, the 855 through the National Fire Protection Association, that states that there has to be training at the commencement of the storage startup.
And what about purchasing the equipment that may be needed to use to fight a fire at this? It says that they will provide at its own expense any specialized equipment, but again, it doesn't speak to when or how it's determined.
That would be, I can put that where they do not get their occupancy certificate before this is taken care of. They have to have an occupancy certificate before they can go online.
Okay, so when you say taken care of, I guess, and I'm not trying to beat you up here, I'm just trying to make sure we're really getting to the middle or to the end of this, but at what point, I guess, would the training take place first, and then the fire departments would say, hey, we need A, B, and C equipment to fight this?
Right.
And at that point, then you would release once that's completed?
Once everything is supplied to the fire departments, they would get the OC then.
Okay, so is there a mechanism that would require them to contact you to let you know or sign off on a document saying that they're satisfied?
Once I have the inspection from the inspector, that's when the issuance of training and the equipment will need to be issued to the fire departments. And then after that is when they can get their OC.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Yeah. Who wrote this up?
I did, with the help of former state's attorney John Vogt and from our county EMA director. And it's taken from other areas' ordinances, a lot from New York State. New York State was very, very, very in-depth. We took a lot of excerpts out of that. And John Vogt believes that this will cover the county, cover adjacent landowners, and cover the landowner that has the battery energy storage on it.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, I see none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose?
Aye.
Okay, go ahead.
On to our monthly hearing of the CBA was held on Thursday, September 15th, 2022. A full quorum was present. The first hearing for the evening was Fairview Solar 1 LLC, Zimmerman South. They are requesting a special use to allow for an additional 2.35 megawatts of ground-mounted community solar with energy storage located at West Fairview Road. Testimony was given by Robert Mack and Jonathan Roberts. All 7 standards were met, and with a voice vote of 5-0, the ZBA recommends approval by this board with the following conditions. Vegetative landscaping must be placed along the west side of the property to protect the view and maintain vegetation until the project is decommissioned, and they must move the utility poles from the northwest corner to adjacent to the access road leading into the site.
Mr. Miller, move to approve. Oh, no. Mr. Newton?
Newton made the motion, but I will second it.
Okay, Mr. Miller seconds it. Thank you. Discussion. Mr. Flegel, go ahead.
Yes, Beth, because I've had some questions from citizens. I did point out and look, not exactly knowing where there is a smaller electrical substation there, close in the proximity. How close will the solar part be?
The solar field has to be 200 feet from any residentially zoned property line or residential dwelling. The battery energy storage has to be 500 feet. Around the battery, I know this is more than you asked, but around the battery energy storage, there is a 25-foot gravel pad that protects that as well.
But from the electrical substation, is there, how far away from that?
That is not on that site.
That is not on that site.
No. There are 3 cell towers in the vicinity of that, though. I believe, I'm not sure if the one is on there, but the 2 adjacent parcels each have cell towers.
Mr. Helms, go ahead.
So I'm looking at the meeting minutes that you provided, and I just wanted to ask about the energy storage will consist of a 20-foot long by 10-foot tall by 8-foot wide container surrounded by gravel.
Correct.
How much gravel is actually going to surround it? How many feet away from?
It's 25 feet wide, so it will be 25 feet away from the container itself.
Okay. And then, again, I wasn't able to attend because of the nursing home committee, which I'm on at this night that this took place, but down towards the bottom of, I believe, the 3rd page, after the landowner's voiced opinion, it says, the board then discussed the matter further. Can we get some sort of inkling as to what was discussed?
They discuss what was discussed that evening. These are short minutes, so my apologies. They usually just discuss if all 7 standards have been met. I do have a copy of the 7 standards if anyone wants to have those. What they anticipate that the ordinance is approving with what's in the ordinance. They make sure that the company abides by. And so that also goes into the 7 standards of recommending.
And that's what was discussed?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the purpose of the 25-foot of limestone is?
That is a buffer in case something does catch on fire. It's usually contained to the storage facility, but the buffer of the 25 feet is just added protection.
And batteries start on fire?
They can, yes.
And what's in the batteries?
Lithium ion. They are actually, they do not contain metallic lithium. They have a lithium salts in them. Water has been demonstrated to be an effective agent for cooling and extinguishing the best fires and incidents. The NFPA 855, which is the National Fire Protection Association standards for the installation of energy storage, this code is established to minimize all hazards. It's updated yearly, if not a couple times a year, and they have to comply no matter what. They're not grandfathered into this. They have to comply.
And that lithium you're talking about, is that liquid or solid?
That I do not know.
Salts are solid.
Thank you.
Is that it, Mr. Clay?
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Miller, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. You've addressed my my concerns about a couple of things, but first, when it comes to fire suppression, I mean, they're not just going to let these things burn.
No. It consists of several smoke sensors. The first smoke sensor triggers an alarm. The second triggers the fire suppression system, which is an aerosol. The block shuts down automatically and the HVAC system disperses the aerosol agent. And the aerosol agent can remain suspended for 20 minutes minimum to prevent the propagation or reigniting of the fire.
I understand this is how big again?
It is one storage container that is approximately 8.7 megawatts of storage, which is 34 hours of storage.
Okay.
My calculations are correct. The container is 20 feet long, 10 feet wide, tall.
So like a
Like just a smaller
like a
shipping
box
container.
truck.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Is this new to the state of Illinois, or has
It
this
is
been
not.
something that's been tried around here
It
before?
has, there is, in my research now, there has been a facility in northern Illinois that is up and running since 2014. Other ones are in the state of Illinois. It's just newer to smaller use.
Thank you.
Mr. Flegel, go ahead.
Yeah, Beth, another question I have is, this is an additional 2.35 megawatt. Is this the same landowner that
Yes.
we approved
Yes,
the
you
first
approved
time?
in 2018 2 megawatts for this site. So they're coming back in now that the state of Illinois has opened up to 5 megawatts with battery energy storage as well. They're coming back in for an additional 2.35 with the energy storage.
So this is the same person, not a
Yes.
different person?
No, this is the same company, same person, same landowner.
Same landowner?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any opposition?
At this one, yes.
Okay. Residents or landowners or?
Residents to the adjacent, we had one that lives to the north of the property, and that company is actually working with her because there is a proposed solar site to be built on the land surrounding her house to the north and east. They are working with her because that was approved in 18 as well. That will start construction in 2018. They are moving that farther away than the 200 feet to begin with, so they're working with that. Back in 2018, we did put in the vegetative buffer. So that was there. At that point in time, there were no objectors for anything.
So is this, I'm a little I don't understand. Is this right adjacent to the first one, or is it across
It's
the
right
road?
on the same parcel. It's the
on the
exact
same
same
parcel.
parcel.
Okay.
The Zimmerman North is on North Fairview Road, and then we're talking about Zimmerman South, which is the whole entire parcel. They put 2 megawatts in the solar application previously. That could be moved for the entire parcel. They lease the special use states what acreage they're using. So it could be, if it was set for down here, it could be moved up here even. But with the additional megawatts, it's more towards the back of the property and coming up in a few lines towards the north.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Helms, go ahead.
Is this west of 26 or east?
East.
So past the residential area?
It's right adjacent to the residential area.
So how far off of 26?
If you come down Fairview Road and you make that jog where the little dwelling that's not very, that's not in the subdivision technically, it's by itself, so usually a little messy. Go around that corner and it's right there where the 3 cell towers are.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I got a couple questions. If a fire occurs, is this toxic by any way?
There would be toxic fumes if there is a leak in the container.
Okay.
The aerosol shuts that down, and then the fire department will be taught how to suppress everything. You do not open the doors until X amount of time has passed. There's certain times that they will want water on it to just keep the box cool.
And my second question is that, out in rural areas, we get heavy winds. Could this jump? Fire could jump into something else, or it's going to be contained because of the gravel?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when the original one was passed in 2018. No one was objecting
Correct.
because people didn't know what they were. And now people are objecting because they see what's going on.
There were no objections to the battery energy storage until that evening. I received letters from adjacent landowners that just said they didn't want to take farmland out of production, they didn't want to look at it, they didn't know the health and safety concerns. One adjacent landowner stated she had solar on their roof but was concerned about cancer. So there were no objections for the first one.
But there were for the second.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Helms, go ahead.
Did I hear you say that there is a venting system?
There can be, on certain ones. This one I do not believe has the venting system.
Are we able to find out for sure? I guess going off of Chairman Hadley's content.
This was not discussed at the hearing.
Oh, it was not, okay.
No. I don't believe.
So we don't know whether or not there's a venting system to this where toxic chemicals could be
May I ask
released.
Mr. Roberts a question and ask him if it's in this paperwork that he handed out at the hearing?
Who's Mr. Roberts?
The applicant?
Yes, go ahead, please.
In this paperwork, only in the paperwork that you handed out at the hearing, was there a venting system in this paperwork for your storage?
I believe there is.
Okay.
That answer your question, Mr. Helms? Or?
Yeah, I guess what I would like to do, since I'm not clear as to whether hazardous chemicals would be vented out or not, it might make sense to send this back to ZBA, and I would make a motion to do so.
Do I have a second on that?
Second that.
Second by Mr. Clay. Any discussion on sending it back to ZBA?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Clay.
Any container normally has to have a venting system because of the expansion and contraction of the outside heat and air. And if chemicals can get out, then it's not a closed container where everything is contained inside. And so I think it should go back to the zoning board and they should look into that.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on this going back to ZBA? I see none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
Carries. Go ahead on the
The
second
second
one.
hearing was for Winslow Nora Solar 1 LLC. They are requesting a special use to allow for an additional 3 megawatts of ground-mounted community solar with energy storage located at West Nora Road, Winslow. Testimony was given, all standards were met, and with a voice vote of 5-0, the ZBA recommends approval by this board.
Motion to approve by Mr. Helms and second by Mr. Dale Gittens. Discussion. Nice. Mr. Wire, go ahead.
Was there any opposition to this?
No, there was not.
Okay. Yes,
yeah,
Mr. Wire. Okay. Mr. Miller, go ahead.
Is there substantive differences between this and the last one?
This one just does not butt up to a residential area.
Okay.
It butts up to farmland.
Are there venting concerns here as well?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
No.
Okay, I see no more discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carries. Okay, thank you very much. This time we'll move on to the chairman's report. I want to discuss a couple things here. Last month I was talking about the job readiness program that the probation department had. I want to clarify something. Dr. McGee had nothing to do on putting this on the shelf. The previous director of probation's Mr. Cunningham had put this on the shelf and just want to emphasize that this was not done by our new director, Dr. McGee. I do want to tell you that we did, Dr. McGee, myself, Workforce Connection, And Goodwill Services, we had a productive meeting just recently, and that came out of the meeting that it looks like that Goodwill Services will take over this program in cooperation with Probation Department and Workforce Connection. There was talk about not much room down in the Probation Department, so I did get permission through Workforce Connection to use their building over on Main Street. They have a big conference room. We already have computers there, so it was an ideal situation. So I've talked to the executive director of Workforce Connection, and we're going to be starting that program up, and we'll be notifying the Illinois Parole District Office that this program is getting started up, and also the Federal Parole Office in Rockford to let them know that this program is getting started back up. I know a lot of businesses are interested in this program, and once we get it started, it's a 4-week program. Goodwill's going to change a few things and work along with probation, and that once we get this started up, then after 4 weeks, they will have job interviews where the companies come in and interview. And I've seen where companies actually hire these folks and they start the next day. So it's a great program to get our returning citizens a job. And I'm going to be working with the local judges also to let them know about this program. The next thing I want to talk about is that recently you all know as the EMA director, Mr. Countryman has resigned effective tomorrow, September 23rd. You'll see on the list there's an approval of an appointment for Scott Townsend to be the interim EMA director. As I was working with the state, I have to put somebody as an interim EMA director. And then once that gets approved, I will fill out the necessary paperwork, and that got to get sent down to Springfield. I am putting a committee together. Mr. Copeland, the chairman of Public Property and Safety, our county administrator, Georgia Newcomer, and myself will do the interviews starting the first week in October. Tomorrow's the cutoff date. We already have 2 applicants, 2 well-qualified applicants applying for this position. So hopefully next month in October, I will bring the appointments forward for the EMA director. Now I want to talk about the Board of Health appointments. There are 2 appointments that will be in front of you tonight. And I want to thank Mr. Helms and Mr. Quinn in assisting. We had 4 applicants for 2 positions. One for a full term ending in June of 2025, another one an unexpected term in 2023. Were good candidates, and it was a pretty tough decision to make, but we brought you 2 good candidates forward to carry on at the Board of Health, and we will continue when there are openings in any type of boards that I will work with a committee to assist me. The next thing I'd like to talk about is that UCCI is going to have their fall conference October 28th and 29th. Nicole Baker will be graduating from the high performance leadership. Well, she's already graduated. Congratulations, Nicole, on that. And she will be, they're going to have a dinner down there and a seminar October 28th, 29th. I've already had signed up 3 people for that and made reservations. And if anybody's interested, please get a hold of me by the end of the month so I can get room reservations for you and your wife if she would like to go. And the next thing is that
It's 2022.
next thing is that as I want to thank Mr. Miller for serving on Soil and Water and Mr. Copeland for serving on 911 board. I'd still have those openings, and till they can fill, I will attend Soil and Water and the 911 board till the end of November if I can't fill them. We do have something coming up through RPC 1. I think a lot of board members might be interested in this. It's understanding property taxes. Assessment of value property tax caps. This is going to be Friday, September 30th, 2022 from 8:15 a.m. to 9:30. It's going to be at the Veteran Memorial Hall at 211 North Main Street. The Winnebago County Supervisor Assessments will be given this class. It's open up to local officials and elected officials. And the fee is $20. So far, me and county administrator are going to go. I kind of like to have an idea tomorrow so I can make these reservations. And if anybody wants to attend that, it's a $20 fee. And I'll just put it all on one card and let them know who's coming. But it's we can always have an extra class about understanding about property taxes and property tax caps. So,
Is that in the morning or in the?
yeah, that's in the morning from 8:15 to 9:30. So if anybody's interested, please get a hold of me or Georgia tomorrow, and I'll make those reservations because it's coming up quick next Friday, a week from Friday. So
Put me down.
you want to go? Okay, I will put you down. And that's it for the chairman's report. Any questions? I see none, so we will move on to, I believe, appointments. Let me get I lost my sheet here now. Okay. So we have, Madam Clerk, can you read the appointments, please?
We have the appointment of Scott Townsend as interim EMA director, appointments of Michelle Folgate for a full term to the Board of Health, and Lisa Flynn for an unexpired term to the Board of Health, Cheryl Kneibel to the Merit Commission, and reappointments to German Valley Fire of Allison Grennan and Davis Fire Shane Riddle.
What's your pleasure? Take them all at once or separate them?
Separate.
Mr. Clay, you want to separate them?
Yep.
Okay. We'll take approval of the appointment of Scott Townsend as interim EMA director. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
By Mr. Copeland and second by Mr. Fliego. Any discussion? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. The next one, can I take both on the Board of Health?
No.
Okay. Michelle Folgate. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Mr. Helms. Second by Mr. Dale Diddens. Any discussion? Mr. Copeland, go ahead.
Are these reappointments or new?
No, they're appointments. They would say reappointment.
They weren't on the board
No,
previously?
no, these are all new people.
Thank you.
Miss Anthony.
Can we get a reminder on the requirements? I think, because there has to be certain professions on the Board of Health, correct?
Correct, but those are already filled.
Okay, so these are separate from
Yeah,
that?
these are separate. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, next one is, can I have a motion for Lisa Flynn?
So moved.
Okay, by Mr. Miller, second by Mr. Toobson. Any discussion? See none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Cheryl Knivel to the Merit Commission, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, by Mr. Fliegel, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Helms, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, the two fire districts, motion to approve.
So moved.
By Mr. Miller, second. By Mr. Dale Diddens, any discussion? I see none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. We will move on to action items. Mr. Helms, go ahead.
First up, we have approval of increasing the 2023 levy request by 5% over the 2022 extension. This was brought forward originally in August by the finance director. I would like to, mention to everyone that any revenue items that have been included in budgets through the oversight committees have included this increase. So keep that in mind, and with that, I'll turn it over to the finance director for explanation.
Good evening. If I could have you look at this sheet in your packet. I apologize to those board members who have heard this all before. So a lot of talk happens every year during this time about taking or not taking the CPI. And I wanted to quickly explain in the green box. This is a rate that's provided by the state of Illinois, and it actually includes the CPI. So we don't have that choice. We do have a choice of whether or not we are going to increase our levy request. So yellow is our current levy request. We can increase that by 5%. That is the maximum. I think in the past, boards may have taken that CPI percentage and increased by that percentage instead of the full 5%. So that might be where that confusion came in. So our previous levy request, or what was extended to us in the previous year, is in orange at the top. And adding 5% to that total gives us $498,311. That would be our maximum to increase our levy request for this year. These are just examples of how it could be broken down and how it is currently in the budget as it stands. $15,000 going to the 708 board, a little over $89,000 going to IMRF, $140,000 going to liability, $109,000 going to Social Security, and $144,000 going to the general fund. Does anyone have any questions on?
Mr. Clay, go ahead.
The green box,
Yes.
that rate is already set,
Yes. That is provided by the state of Illinois.
and that includes the 5%. Okay. So are we going for a 10% increase? That's what
No.
we're really doing?
The calculation, it doesn't provide a 5% increase per se. It impacts our numbers, but it doesn't provide a 5% increase.
But on the average increase is like 2.5 or 3%.
I would have to do the calculations. But it's this orange box multiplied by the limiting rate, the rate increase, which gives you this. Then it goes down, and it depends on the EAV. There's a lot of different factors. It's just not a straight 5% or a straight 2.1% or whatever the CPI is.
And so what we're voting on is whether we're going to take our levies and increase them by 5%.
5% over what was actually extended to us last year. So not our levy request, but since we're a capped county, our levies are knocked down based on the cap. So if you see in the yellow box, the total is 10.1 million of what we requested, and what we actually received was 9.9 in the orange box. So that's the number that we base the 5% increase on.
Is that it, Mr. Clay?
And so that's about $100,000 increase.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Wire, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Outside of Cook County, Stephenson County is one of the highest tax counties in the state. And I think that a lot of other counties find a way of getting by. I think we should find a way of getting by without raising that extra 5%.
Mr. Helms, go ahead.
So the new levy request would be at the bottom right of 10,609,750, but the likelihood of actually receiving that is not very good. Is that correct? Considering past experience, I suppose.
Past experience, that's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Clay, go ahead.
This limit of 1.05 by the state, is this the first year that's happened?
The 5% CPI?
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's the highest it's ever been.
No, this is the first year that they've done that, where the state comes in and says this is what the rate is.
No, each year they take the CPI into account and they add it to the limiting rate. So last year it was 1.021 because the CPI was 2.1%.
Right, but the state's doing that.
Yes,
And that automatically goes in as a tax increase.
it's included in the tax calculation, yes.
Right, okay, thank you.
Mr. Baylor, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. At finance, when we discussed this on Monday, you had found a hypothetical John Smith, I believe, who had a property that was worth approximately $100,000 with
Yes.
all the other things excluded. What was the number that this raised his taxes by?
$7.72.
$7.72. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Clay, go ahead.
And that was a piece of, a house?
That was a house worth $100,000 and he had an owner-occupied exemption on that property in the city of Freeport.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? Mr. Wire, go ahead.
For the average person, that doesn't sound like very much, but I've had people contact me living on $600 a month fixed income, and that $7 is 2 gallons of milk a month that they can't buy, or some other essentials that they can't buy. And there are a lot of people in that situation, so I would be opposed to raising it because there's a lot of people that is a lot more than just a couple of cups of coffee.
Okay, Mr. Helms, go ahead.
I'll yield my time to Mr. Newton. I can come back.
Mr. Newton, go ahead.
I don't have a discussion. I was only going to make a motion because there's no motion to take. So
I only have one more person. Mr. Helms, go ahead.
I guess I'm not in favor of raising taxes at all, but what I've been witnessing in the oversight committees are larger increases to wages than what was in the budget policy. I'm seeing large 15 to 20% increases in overall budgets because of inflation and the costs of goods and services. It's a reality. I guess I'm a little confused as to why we're approving all those expenditures, but we're talking about not increasing revenue. And I don't know if you'll remember this, but I had asked this question at finance. If you removed the increase out of the revenue side of the budget, we would be negative at the end, correct, from what's been passed so far? Do you remember approximately how much?
For the general fund, I believe it was 10 to 20,000.
Okay, thought it was more than that, but if that's all it was, then
Was it 38?
okay. All right, thank you.
I see no more discussion. Madam Clerk, call roll, please.
We don't have a motion.
Okay, I'm sorry. So can I get a motion? Okay, motion by Mr. Newton, a second.
I'll second.
By Miss Anthony. Now discussion on this. Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I put on everyone's desk tonight a paper that at the bottom says EAV, equalized assessed value for Stephenson County for the years 2000 through 2021. These come right out of our budget every year. And so this comment that they take $100,000 house and it's a $7 increase. Well, I don't know, I think the average house price right now is like $250,000. But if you, no, I'm talking about nationwide.
Oh, sorry.
But if, for Stephenson County here, in the year 2000, if you go to the last column, farms were paying 21.5% of the real estate tax in this county. You can see in 2002 it was 20%. In 2021, the farms are now picking up 30% of the real estate tax in this county. So at the bottom of the first column, which is the farm EAV, it's went up 2 times in the last 20 years. It's doubled. Your residential houses, the next column, it's only went up 1.2%. 1.2 times. Not the increase that the farmers out there are feeling. And you can see the commercial didn't go up about the same as houses. The industrial went up about the same. But the extension, the total extension, the last, second to the last column, in 2000, the county collected $5 million in real estate tax. In 2021, they collected $10 million. That means it doubled. In the last 21 years, the county has doubled the amount of real estate tax that they're collecting from everybody in this county. Now, has your income doubled in the last 20 years so that you can pay twice as much in real estate tax? I doubt it. Anybody that I talk to, nobody's told me their income has doubled. And in the same time period where the real estate taxes have doubled in the last 21 years, we've lost 10% of our population. In the last 21 years, we've lost 10% of the population in Stephenson County. So now where we had 10 taxpayers in the year 2000, we only have 9 taxpayers left in the year 2021. Are we going to keep hitting them 9 people harder? Do we want some more people to walk out of this county?
That it, Mr. Clay?
No, I'm
Okay,
not done.
go ahead.
There's an effect on the real estate tax in our county. People, if they can't voice their opinion and get anything done, people eventually walk with their feet. And that's what's going on in this county. They are walking with their feet. And this isn't the only tax that we collect in this county. We've increased the user fees on everybody. In fact, we heard from restaurant owners in this county that we raised the rates too high on them. Did we change the rate? Nope. As an elected Republican board member, the Illinois Republican platform states, quote, advancing our founding fathers' principles of freedom, opportunity, and limited government, unquote. Since I've been on this board, I don't see any limited government. We continue to add programs, we continue to add people, new department heads. Where is the limited government that our forefathers gave us? The Republican platform also states, quote, promoting Illinois agriculture. We recognize agriculture remains Illinois' core industry. Agriculture built the state, and the state's growth and success continue to depend upon farm families. We know that Illinois farmers feed the nation, create thousands of jobs, provide raw materials, and drive hundreds of local economies, unquote. So I would like to take you back to the sheet that I handed out. We've doubled the EAV on the farmers in the last 21 years. They're the guys that are getting hit with the taxes. So is this being farm family friendly in our tax policy that we're passing tonight? Are we gonna go out and get those farmers 5% more? Talk about the inflation that we got right now. There's a statistic out that says that for a family to provide the same exact level of goods today as 1 year ago, that family has to spend $476 a month more today than they did 1 year ago to get the same amount of goods. Then we're going to turn around, we're going to hit them harder on their real estate tax. I understand that the county's getting hit with the inflation tax too. That's one of the reasons why we shouldn't be taking all that federal money that they created, because we're bringing the inflation into our own county by doing so. But the bottom line is everybody's paying more for the same amount of goods that they got a year ago. And so where's this liberty? Where is this freedom-loving people that we're supposed to be, that our forefathers gave us this great nation to propel, and we're sitting here taxing the people so that they're leaving our county? I think it's time to say no. As you can see, the state's already automatically putting a tax increase in force. We don't even have to vote on it. And the tax increase shouldn't be coming from downstate. If there's a tax increase, it should be coming from us. But as you can see, we don't even have any say about that anymore. It's time to take back our county. It's time to start working for the people that we get elected by. We hear from the people that we're paying taxes from. We hear from them every month. We come here and we listen to the department heads and we listen to the people that work for this county. We hear them every month, and they keep telling us we need more, we need more. But we never hear from the people that elected us. They don't come in here every meeting and say, you're hitting me too hard. Well, 10% of them have already left. I think it's time for us to say, it's time to hold the limit right here, right now. It's us that need to say no more. And it's us that need to say, you know what, we need to start cutting programs, we need to start cutting personnel, and we need to whittle the size of our huge government, our huge county government, down in size. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Helms, go ahead. I don't agree with or disagree with a lot of what you said, but I guess just for some clarification on the percentage of taxes that farms are paying, I'm financing, this year alone, I financed almost $20 million of farm loans purchases where the people that were selling the farms, if they bought them at all, they bought them at about $1,000 to $2,000 an acre, and the average that I'm financing is over $15,000 an acre. So I don't disagree that they shouldn't do that. They should do it. You know, good for them. But to sit there and say that they shouldn't pay any real estate tax when they're getting that kind of a return on that investment, whether they inherited it or they purchased it. Why should I, as a person that owns a house in a town, pay a higher tax rate? I'm not selling my property for 5 to 7 times what I paid for it. And I'm just talking about being fair. I'm not suggesting taxes are fair. I'm just saying that if they're paying 30%, and not all of them are obviously selling their farms, I get it. But the value is there, and a lot of them are using the equity. I see it every day. I wish we were a corporation that we could make something, and we could up production, and we could sell more of it, and we could get rid of taxes. That was kind of the thought I had when I suggested that we do increase the fees for doing services here. Because why should I pay for somebody to go get a marriage certificate? Why should my real estate taxes go towards that? I get that it's going to have to a certain percentage, but it's a user fee, and it is a fee, and you can call it a tax, you can say whatever. But the same people that complained about how much they were having to pay to keep their restaurants open also got PPP money. They were glad to take it. And they got tens of thousands, some over 100,000, to redo their restaurants. Some of the very people that came down here and complained about the percentage, but not the actual dollar. Again, it all boils down to, in my mind, we should not be raising taxes. We should be cutting as much as we possibly can. But where do you cut? What services don't people want? What can they live without? Payroll is the largest expense we have. You've got to have people to provide the services. I've paid way more in salaries than I've ever done at my bank. I can barely make it with that. My margins are pinched. My shareholders are getting less dividends because of it, but I have to have staff. And if I have staff that can go work at ingrown farms and make $5 to $7 an hour more, doing a job that they're just being trained, and I'm losing somebody that's highly skilled, I've got to pay more. I don't have much more. My interest rates are still low, but I've still got to do it. So again, I'm coming back to, why aren't we doing more to cut? Why aren't we doing more to figure out what services are important to the people and budget towards those? I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't think I've ever seen it while I've been on the county board. But there's a lot of wage increases going on. Health insurance is going up. You know, we had it made for 2 years, $2 million we saved with the employees. Everything's going up. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Helms. Mr. Jarvis?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think I'm gonna have to vote no on this. I totally understand that the wages need to go up and the health insurance is gonna go up. But Illinois tax rates are number one or number two worst in the country. And it appears we're already forced to raise this 5% by the state. We are in a recession that I believe is going to get worse, and we are very close to a financial cliff. And I understand that the budgets are that we presented so far, and some have been approved and some haven't, but without this increase, it's only a $38,000 negative from where we were before, I believe. Appears that we are cash carrying forward $4 to $5 million, maybe 4. I know there's some debate on that. But the other thing is, we're going to spend $6 million. Looks like we're on the road to do that for mill race, sewer, and water. Expecting companies to move in here in a recession, which hopefully they do, but it's kind of hard for companies to expand when there's a serious downturn. So I'm going to have to vote no on this. Thank you.
Mr. Fleagle, go ahead.
On some of the things that Mr. Clay has mentioned, I do agree with. But what's very frustrating for me, I've been associated with the board now for a little over 11 years, break in between. Someone I've always viewed myself as being very pro-economic promotion. The only way to turn these things around is more businesses and more jobs. That is the only thing that turns us around. Outside of that, we cut services. We cut people, and we have people leave. You can't have both. You can't be a hypocrite and say, well, we got to do this, but then you vote against any economic development. I've heard in the past say, well, economic development, that's just picking and choosing winners and losers. No, that's people that are willing to go find those people, willing to take their risk, bring a business, hire people, give people jobs, and to come into our county or our area. I commend Burner Foods. I commend Ingrown Farms and several that have expanded. Maybe some we don't know who they are, but they are. I come from the farm, and I mean the larger dairy farms that have expanded in this county give jobs. I heard financial numbers today. This next year, in the ag community, for every 1,000 acres of crops, the inputs costs for those crops for 1,000 acres are going to be right around $1.2 million to plant 1,000 acres of crops, with no guarantee of what that crop's going to do, what it's going to grow, what the markets are going to be. You know, I as much as I dislike to do that, but I'm going to support this. We need to step forward. But also, as board members, sir, we need to look and I hear so many detrimental things and negative things, but nobody comes up with suggestions and answers or opportunities. Well, let's go talk to this person. You know, 15 years, 20 years ago, I talked to a former county board member when the insurance companies were moving out of town. And I asked him, did you talk to them as a county leader? Well, no. I said, why not? Well, they're in the city. Isn't the city part of the county? We've had, insurance companies that were big employers in this county. They've been out, they've been back, and now they're back out and back and forth. You have to take, if we want to step into these positions and sitting in these seats, I feel it is also our responsibility to talk to people, to look at other options, see what's out there, look at other counties, what they're doing. You know, how are they bringing people in, new jobs, new businesses, new ideas? I'm not saying we have to invent the wheel again, but let's find out what's going on in other areas, not just sit here and say, well, gosh, our income's coming down, we got to cut services, we can't take the risk of increasing a 5% for a year and try to stop this exiting of people and trying to bring in new jobs, new ventures, new positive-minded people. Because if all you think is negative, that's all you're going to get is negative. I'm sorry that I'm a little on a rant rave here, but that's, I've sat here for 11 years and people see that just vote down and don't want to do economic development and try to take some incentives. Timing is a tough issue. Mill race, it was a tough time. But if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have the facility out there looking to expand and employ a lot of people right now. Burnham Foods, the amount of people that they have employed. They're not going to pick up and you build a business in a million or multi-million-dollar business. Guess what? They're not picking up and leaving in 24 months. So, thank you.
Mr. Newton, go ahead.
Thank you. I think my greatest issue with this is that the EAV is the smallest, most ultra-conservative increase that we can take when you consider some of the other things that we should do. And if you're right, we could make smaller government, because one of our largest employers is our public safety. No one wants to see public safety get smaller than it already is. Everybody says they need them, but yet and still, we don't take the opportunity to do what every other community that's thriving is doing with public safety, which is take our full penny tax. Well, I mean, I understand it's a tax, but they take half of our money. We wouldn't be worried about this little increase if public safety was funded properly, but it's not. So it's neither here nor there. And the bottom line is we're not looking to let people go, because every department has increases each year. They can't hold on to the employees they have because they're not making what surrounding counties are making. And so we're losing it that way. Freeport can't get enough police officers, and if they did, they lose them. The same with our sheriff. They lose them because other communities have done what they need to do with public safety, and they're doing a better job at it than we are. And so you're not going to get out of paying taxes in this life, unfortunately. But you want to be as conservative as you can be. And that EAV is so conservative that it ain't even enough to really hardly make us break even. But it is what we are doing. We're tax capped. We're in a conservative setup. So if we don't take and try and tread water with the little bit of tax increase that we get is almost hopeless. And we've done some years where we didn't take it. And that's why we have some of the lowest paid employees. And that's why we're struggling. And so we can't take care of our buildings. They're falling apart, but we don't want to take the we don't want to take the EAV. Every year we can't possibly get a contingency because we don't have enough little bit extra to put away to fix anything. And you can't do anything but cut people in order to get there. Yeah, if you just want to start cutting every department, okay, that's what we'll have to do to make it. But you're not going to make people happy in the community with less services when we don't have that many services to start with. So thank you.
Mr. Miller, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Inflation's here, and it's real. Most recent number was 8.26%. It's worse in many places than that. And when you take the actual percentage and you look at real costs for people, it's much worse. And it's much worse at the bottom rung. And it's much worse at the bottom rung because it's about the essentials in life. And the essentials in life are just plain more expensive. I passed out a little thing in Finance Committee that Dale and the fellas at the Highway Department put together, going through our essentials: salt, fuel, parts for trucks, pipe, asphalt. Nothing going up by less than 20%. And we got to maintain roads. Well, maintain what's left of some of the roads that we have. And it is in many ways like Sisyphus pushing up a rock up a hill that we're never going to get to. But to continue to say that the cheap answer of, well, we just got to cut costs. The only way for me to cut costs in the highway department is simply do less work. And I don't think that's what anybody here wants to do. Now, are there other departments that maybe need to reassess their budget? That's not for me to say. That's not my purview. But to say, well, 5%'s enough, and we're going to somehow make it better next year. Well, where do you expect these costs to go down? Because salt's projected to go to like $114 a ton. We were paying $47 a couple of years ago. That's where we're at. It's not going to come back down. These are the new normal. And so to say, well, 5%, even though it's 8.6% in the rest of or 8.3% in the rest of the country, 5%, we're going to make this work. We have been doing that for far too long, and it's put us in a situation where we can't keep good people. We can't be competitive. It is tough to find some. I want you to take a step back and reflect that I have to find drivers for the highway department, or rather Dale does, and whatever poor schmuck sits in this seat after me. With Frito-Lay hiring at $90,000 a year with a $10,000 sign-on bonus for a CDL driver. And I'm paying $23 an hour once they're through probation and whatnot. I have to be competitive. Now the benefits package is good, and I can sell that to somebody, but we have to be competitive. And the prices are where the prices are. So as much as I don't want to raise taxes on people, I don't see an alternative because I don't see any cuts that I can make in my department. We're already digging into our reserves to make next year work. And I don't see a willingness to cut some of the departments that maybe are hemorrhaging money on this board. So what is the alternative? We can all stand on our soapbox and we can all yell at each other. But the reality is these bills have still got to get paid. And we got to have some kind of a reserve. We got to have some kind of a backup plan because things pop up, as we've learned year after year here, that are very expensive. So I will support this tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Dale Dibbs, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to throw this out there. During the court services meetings and the finance meetings, we talked about the revenue that we're going to lose from the loss of court fees. And the estimate is about $500,000 a year. Could be up, could be higher, could be lower, but that's at the estimate right now. So, we're like passing this, we're going to kind of keep even, but that's something to consider too, is we're losing, the state is robbing us. So maybe we should make some changes in the state, elect some more conservative people, but I don't see how we get around it. I don't see how we get around that. I'm going to support it only because I think we have to.
Mr. Helms, go ahead. Can you tell us how much cash carry forward you pushed into the budget this year?
2.5 million into the general fund.
And that's over last year's, correct?
Yes, last year was 1.93 million.
And how much would you say is approximately left? I know it's hard to say, but with cash flow and bills to pay.
I think the treasurer is comfortable with going up maybe another $250,000, possibly.
Okay. And you took into account, if I remember correctly, what Mr. Diddens is speaking to with the lost revenue coming from the circuit clerk's office, approximately $500,000,
yes,
give or take. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I see no more discussion. Adrian, did you have something to say to the board?
I did. I just wanted to address the $38,000 shortfall that was brought up earlier. That is only the case if that $144,000 allocation to the general fund was taken away. So if you look at liability and Social Security, we were trying to increase transparency and not make transfers from the general fund to liability and to Social Security. If this does not get passed, the shortfall in the general fund will be around over $300,000 because all of those increases in those levies will come from the general fund.
With adding back $2.5 million cash carry forward.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The figures that I gave you tonight to increase the tax, real estate tax that the county has collected in the last 20 years from $5 million in 2000 to $10 million in 2021. That's an annual increase of 3.4% every year. So when they tell you that they haven't been raising taxes or the EAB hasn't been increasing, things have been increasing at the rate of 3.4% every year. And that's when they say we weren't taking the increase every year. And now we're going to start adding 5% on top of what the state is going to increase it. Your decision. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I see no more discussion. Madam Clerk, call roll, please.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Deb Devine.
Aye.
Charles Hilton.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
Dale Diddens.
Aye.
Kurt Copeland.
Aye.
Kevin Toomson.
Aye.
Erica Monroe.
Aye.
Ron Flegel.
Aye.
Elvin Wire.
No.
Larry Jogerst.
No.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Daniel Rohr.
Aye.
Garrett Miller.
Aye.
Jerry Clay.
No.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Yes, 3 no.
15 yes, 3 no, that passes. Mr. Helms, go ahead.
Yep, so next up I have approval of resolutions for the sale of the following surplus properties, which I am not going to read all of these properties. We have 15 to approve. The first parcel that ends in 003 is a reconveyance to the former owner, which is a good thing. The remaining 14 parcels are all sales from the July sealed bid auction. Of those 14, 4 vacant lots, and the remaining 10 have some kind of structure on them, ranging from a garage to a mobile home to a duplex. The proceeds of the sale will return $68,110.97 to the county and the other taxing districts where the properties are located. Those dollars will cover the county's costs and fees, but not the agent's fees. The $68,110.97 is net to the county after their fees. After the county's costs, fees, and late penalties are recovered, the taxing districts will receive the remaining funds through distribution along with current property tax collections. The highest bid of these parcels was a 2.5-story duplex at $17,112.75, and the lowest amount was the minimum bid of $815 for a vacant lot at Lake Somerset. With that, I will make a motion to approve all 15.
Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Jorges. Any discussion? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carries. Mr. Helms, any information?
We are approximately a third of the way through the budget process. I believe there are a few, maybe 2, 3 that I can think of. I think nursing, court services, the other one is escaping me right now, that are going back to the oversight committee. But nursing is not going back. It has not officially come to finance yet. Supplemental requests have not been reviewed. We'll see where we come in with some of the other expenses and where we wind up. We recessed our finance committee meeting of Monday of this week to the regularly scheduled finance committee meeting in October, which I think it's a Monday. It should be the 17th, I believe. Again, I encourage all county board members to attend. You are more than welcome to participate. The more involvement we can have, the better off we'll be, I believe. So we will determine at that October 17th meeting if there will be any special meetings needed to wrap this up before the first reading of the budget in November. I also want to say, I believe, and the administrator can correct me on this, that open enrollment has been completed.
Correct.
For the health insurance, which will go into effect November 1st. October 1st, that's right. It was good while it lasted, the savings, but it's still a very, very good plan. I'm very proud of the plan that we have, and I'm glad that we didn't get canceled and the employees are able to have that benefit. With that, I guess I am done.
Okay, Mr. Copeland, any information out of your committee?
Yes, we've, the sheriff and the deputy chief they presented the budget, all 5 budgets, and they were approved, and then they were forwarded to finance. I just discovered last week the Kankakee County Sheriff, along with the Kankakee State's Attorney Jim Rowe, filed a civil lawsuit against the state, asking that the Safety Act be declared unconstitutional. So if that comes into fruition, hopefully that estimated loss on fines and fees will not be the case. So that's about all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any information out of administration?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We just worked through budgets and passed those on to finance. There are a couple policy changes that we're working on right now, and hopefully we'll have those ready for next month's meeting. That's all I have for that.
Thank you. Mr. Dale Dins, you have an action item. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we voted to raise the juror compensation from $10 a day to $15. This is paid for in this line item. In 2021, we budgeted $21,000 and used about $9,800. 2022, we had $22,500 budgeted, and we've used $7,584. So there's plenty of money there to pay the jurors an extra $5 a day. So I would make a motion to approve that resolution.
Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Copeland. Any discussion? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Any information out of your committee?
We have one more budget to pass, and we're working on that right now. And we voted to change the youth diversion instead of paying it twice a year, or sending out the money twice a year, because the level of money has gone way down. we're going to hand out money once a year, April 1st in the spring. So we voted that through. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anthony, 2 action items, go ahead.
Thank you. First up, we have approval of nursing center claims in the amount of $234,394.64. This was separate because we were waiting on the much anticipated Medicare money to come through, which did. We received earlier this week $252,500, so plenty to cover. I think it was $36,000 that was remaining. So with that, I'll make the motion to approve.
Second by Mr. Bush. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call roll on this amount, please.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
Dale Diddens.
Aye.
Kurt Kopleen.
Aye.
Kevin Tombson.
Aye.
Erica Monroe.
Aye.
Ron Flegel.
Aye.
Alvin Wire.
No.
Larry Jogerst.
Aye.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Daniel Rohr.
Aye.
Garrett Miller.
Aye.
Jerry Clay.
No.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Deb Devine.
Aye.
Charles Hilton.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
2 no, motion carried.
Okay, motion carries. Go ahead with your other action item, please.
The next item is approval of a resolution setting the private pay rate. With that, I'll make the motion and then explain.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tombson. Go ahead.
Thank you. TCM made us aware of an administrative code that stated that services shouldn't be provided at a lesser rate than the Medicaid rate. There could be ramifications for that if you are charging more, which we were for private pay, then Medicaid could come in and not provide the full Medicaid reimbursement based on the fact that the nursing home is providing services for a lesser fee. A resolution was put together to rectify that, to go through and raise it to increase to the current Medicaid reimbursement of $238.20, and then to keep it in line with the Medicaid rate. However, after consulting with Mr. Larson, there were some recommendations, so I'd like to make an amendment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6th paragraph down, where it says, "Be it further resolved that the private pay rate shall be authorized to be increased without further action. Should the Medicaid reimbursement rate increase, add by the nursing home administrator, period. The nursing home administrator will report to the nursing home committee when there's a Medicaid reimbursement increase and their plan of action to increase the private pay rate." And I do have this written out.
Yes, she's going to need a copy of that if you can bring that up. You're making that motion to amend.
Correct.
Do I have a second on this amendment by Mr. Rohr? Discussion on this amendment. Mr. Clay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know why we would allow somebody else to set our private pay rate. We're the ones that are running the business? Really? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Clay. Miss Anthony, go ahead.
Some other clarifications that Mr. Larson has suggested is looking at what the cost of service actually is. Looking at the cost report from January 1st to August 31st of 2022, our average cost of service is $280.57 per patient day, which is less than even what we're being reimbursed for Medicaid and even less what we're charging for private pay, which is also why Medicaid is looking at those numbers and why we're anticipating August 1st that Medicaid rate to increase.
Okay, Mr. Helms, go ahead.
I guess first, Mr. Larson, have you reviewed the amendment to make sure it's in line with what you were thinking?
I've been in a lot of discussions, but I haven't looked at this actual paper, so let me just take a...
While you're doing that, Mr. Clay, you're actually in favor of raising a fee? You don't want the state to tell us how much? I'm just asking, just clarification.
Say that we're running a business and we're letting somebody else set the fee? Really?
Kind of like when we did the fee study, right?
That's a situation where the taxpayers in this county were already paying taxes for all the services they get, and then you turn around and this board says, now we're gonna tax them people for the very services that they're paying taxes for.
There's a tax levy for the nursing. There's a tax levy for the nursing home.
We're not going to exchange battles between board members here, please.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Mr. Helms, I can address your earlier question at this point. This amendment is consistent with my earlier suggestion. The only thing that's a little bit different from my suggestion, and I guess this is more discretionary than mandatory, but there is a part of the county code that says that we can't charge more for private pay than the actual cost of service. And I had recommended including that. That's not in here. It doesn't make it invalid by any means. But other than that, this is consistent with my earlier recommendations.
Would you recommend that we add that?
Yeah, I did. And I would recommend that. But like I say, I think that's discretionary, not mandatory. The reason I would recommend, or I did recommend adding that was, it's easy to forget that that's a requirement. And if we have it in our resolution, it's just kind of one more chance to remind, the future board, the future nursing home administrator, that, hey, there is this state limitation on how much you can raise this.
Do we need to vote on the current amendment before I offer another amendment?
Unless she wants to withdraw that and add that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Anthony.
Right. And I had some follow-up questions regarding that because it was sent kind of later in the afternoon.
Sure.
So in your email, you said it was regulated by state statute, which I couldn't find. Right now, you're saying it's regulated by county code.
Well, the county code section of state statute.
Okay.
I sent it to you guys. I can pull it up here. Let me just. All right. Let's see. Okay, this was a very long email, so I understand. Sent to you Tuesday, September 20th at 3:49 p.m. 55 ILCS 5/5-21001 indicates that the county board shall have the power, and then the sixth paragraph indicates to fix the rate per day, week, or month which it will charge for the care and maintenance of patients. Rates so established may vary according to the amount of care required, but the rates shall be uniform for all persons or agencies purchasing care in the home, except rates for people who are able to purchase their own care may approximate actual cost. So that's, sometimes I call it the county code. It's the 55 ILCS, which is the state statute that deals with county government law, which was in the email that I sent you September 20th.
Thank you. Can I just clarify my amendment then?
Well, you can withdraw and then make a new amendment.
I'll withdraw.
Okay, she's withdrawing, and you withdraw. Will you state your new amendment, please?
Be it further resolved that the private pay rate shall be authorized to be increased without further action should the Medicaid reimbursement rate increase by the nursing home administrator. comma, but that no increase shall exceed the actual cost of the services provided, period. The nursing home administrator will report to the nursing home committee when there's a Medicaid reimbursement increase and their plan of action to increase the private pay rate.
Could you state that one more time, please?
Yes. Be it further resolved that the private pay rate shall be authorized to be increased without further action should the Medicaid reimbursement rate increase by the nursing home administrator, which was already written on there, so then comma, but that no increase shall exceed the actual cost of the services provided.
Do I have a second on that? Mr. Rohr seconds that. Discussion on this amendment. Mr. Copeland, go ahead.
I would just clarify, if we don't increase the private pay rate to the Medicaid reimbursement rate, the state can go back and pay us the private pay rate for reimbursement. Is that correct? Okay.
And just to clarify that a little bit further, Medicaid sets their rate by looking at the cost reports to determine what they're saying is the actual cost of service. So there's a benefit either way when you look at it. If we're looking at how much a service actually costs, that's how Medicaid establishes that, which right now our private pay is evidenced by not only what Medicaid is paying, but also what the figures we got with where we're at right now for the year with our average cost of service being $280 a day. And right now, private pay is about $195 a day.
Okay, Mr. Jorges, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I will support this. I do have a question. Has anybody looked at the other nursing homes in the county and see if they are tying this together? Because that may cause people to go elsewhere.
They did. TCM and I think, I'm not going to quote this right, but someone in the office, perhaps, the marketing director, thank you. The marketing director called around all the nursing homes, and they gave the numbers in the nursing home as far as all the Freeport long-term living care centers do. They're above what Medicare is reimbursing right now for private pay.
Thank you.
Mr. Clay, go ahead.
So where's the marketplace out there? Okay, you're playing a game here. You're letting somebody, federal government, set your rate, and everybody's gonna follow it. So where's the marketplace out there at work? Hello here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I see no more discussion on this amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
Okay, so we already have an original motion. So on the original motion with an amendment, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
Carries. Any information out of the nursing home committee?
Yes, thank you. So the nursing home was presented with an initial budget that was balanced with a slight profit at the end of it, but there were certain variables that we were waiting on, such as insurance, so the expense with insurance based on what employees actually enrolled in. The Medicaid increase, we should be finding out October 1st or a couple days after what that reimbursement rate is, because that would affect the revenue. So those were items that, when presenting the budget, the nursing home team wanted to ensure that there was as accurate of picture as possible. There is a family night event next Thursday, September 29th, from 4 to 5, so the families can come, and there's going to be some music there. But following that is going to be a meet and greet from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Outside under the awning, so that'll give the public, board members, residents' families an opportunity to meet the TCM team, meet our administrator, Ms. Harris, meet the clinical team, the therapy team, the department directors, and there will be a little presentation given so that people can hear what's going on, what some plans are for Stephenson Nursing Center. Refreshments will be provided. So just wanted to get that out there. There will be a flyer that'll be coming out soon, so I'll have Shannon send that out to all county board members, and there was a press release issued this morning so that the community can be aware. As stated previously, Medicare has finally started coming in, so that was definitely a breath of fresh air for that to occur. So that'll be coming in on a more consistent basis. Well, it will be coming in on a consistent basis now that we've gotten through all of those hurdles. CNA agency staffing continues to decrease, not nursing, but as far as CNA agency staffing, that is pretty nominal at this point, and because of that, agency costs has continued to decrease month after month. We did discuss the CNA reimbursement opt-in program that I know there was a lengthy discussion regarding that in the nursing home committee. Transitional care management and Ms. Harris are they're very passionate about this particular program and want us to look into it further based on other nursing homes in the area have opted in. So what that means is the state will reimburse partially a increase in wage anywhere from $1.50 to $6.50 an hour, or $6.50 an hour based on their years that they've had their CNA license. The whole theory behind it was to make CNA more of a career, which was interesting what Mr. Miller brought up about highway and having trouble finding highway, because you need a CDL, correct? To have snowplow? So having a license like that, and they're paying $23 an hour, and CNAs are getting paid starting $16.50 to $18.50 an hour, and that's with 9 years of experience for the CNA, which you also need a license for. So that is why the state kind of stepped in and said, CNAs to do recruitment, because it's a difficult job, so it takes a special person to do it in the first place. But paying them for the service that they're provided. And so the first time to opt in is October 1st, and then you can opt in, you have to opt in every quarter. It's not something that just automatically renews. But again, the team that we have out there, the professionals that we have out there at Stephenson Nursing Center are concerned that if we don't opt into this program, that we're going to have CNAs leave the agency or leave the nursing home and go elsewhere where they are offering this opt-in program. And then we're talking about the CNA staffing numbers not going down anymore. Now they're going to be increasing, so we have that additional cost. And so because the first time to opt in is October 1st, they really wanted to call a special meeting. And I know that's something I've talked to Chairman Hadley about. But it's something that we wanted to have a consensus if it's something that here on the board that we're looking to have further discussion on, looking at if we're able to, if financially we could support it, and then also the risks, what happens if we don't opt in. And so at this point, if there's any questions about it.
Mr. Helms, go ahead.
I don't have any questions, but I think we should really get the whole story out here about this. So if we opt into this on October 1st, we can only file for reimbursement on January 1st. And if we're lucky, we'll get paid the end of February or March, and we'll always have a rolling 5-month lag in reimbursement. And the nursing home does not have the funding to cover the remainder of the fourth quarter or all of the fourth quarter at this point. There's not revenue, their own projections, their own cash flow projections. I think after they receive the Medicare payment is now up to about a plus side of around 38,000 at the end of the year, which prior to that was about 18,000. So we voted to table this. So to be talking about having a special meeting to vote on this, I also asked other department heads who have union employees, how this would impact their collective bargaining agreements. If we open up the nursing home agreement basically and offer them more money, will the other unions say, hey, wait a second? And the department heads I talked to said, yes, they probably would file a grievance. And it would be hard to sit there and say, well, one department can get it, but another can't. So I guess I'm going to need clarification, one, why the committee approved unanimously to table this until the December meeting, that now we're talking about holding a special meeting.
Go ahead, Mr. Copley.
I'm all for, getting the CNAs more money. They do a lot of hard work, but I was the president of the police union, and if you don't have some verbiage in there, if that program ceases to exist and you have their current wage at a scale in that contract, you're going to be, I think it was $275,000 you're on the hook for. So there definitely needs to be something in there if it's going to pass.
Mr. Miller, go ahead.
I guess my greater concern is where the financials are for the nursing home. We're talking about putting more money into staffing. I'm in favor of that in general. My mother was a CNA. My sister has managed Alzheimer's units for 20 years. They don't get paid enough. No argument there. My concern is where we are financially, and maybe this is wandering a bit from the topic, but I continue to get a status update from the nursing home and a status update from the finance director saying where we are day to day, and they're wildly different. The one Mr. Wall put out the other day showed us with like a $30-something thousand balance as of September 30th, while the nursing home's own projections are over 200,000. This is a wildly different place. I mean, that's a lot of difference in between the numbers. And so as we're talking about projecting things 5 months out in advance, or 6 months out in advance, I think we need to have a little better handle on where the finances actually are in the nursing home before we can have that discussion. Just for clarification, though, getting a CDL has changed wildly since February. It's now a $10,000 class and a month of instruction and a month of training and constant certification and updates and liability. I'm not saying that they're not both equal jobs. My fellows in the highway department are working awful hard for that $23 an hour, and they're certainly, since I just got through a union negotiation, are going to want to have another conversation about their compensation going forward if we do this. And why wouldn't they?
Ms. Anthony, go ahead.
So speaking of the unions, I want to thank you, Chairman Hadley, for giving the direction to reach out to the union attorney, Michael Lowenbaum, for that particular issue. And from my understanding, and please clarify more, Mr. Lowenbaum reported that because it's coming from an outside source from the state, that there's no ground to stand on regarding grievances. Is that correct?
Ms. Newcomer, go ahead.
He did, that was his initial feelings on it, yes. He did have some other concerns, though.
Which were?
Reaching a deal with the union as their current contract has a wage reopener in it.
Correct. So just to address your initial concern, Mr. Helms, that has been addressed by our union attorney, I would like to ask if Mr. Philippo can come up and explain the financial position.
Yes, he can come up. Meanwhile, I want to ask the state's attorney something. Mr. Helms brings up a good point. Ms. Anthony made the motion to table an issue till December. I've always never liked the word table, but could you look up to see, because she would have to call a special meeting before I would call a special meeting to take that off the table. Could you look that up while he's speaking to us?
No, you wouldn't have to. It may not, well, the procedural aspects are separate from the advisability of any given act, but the county board can hold a special meeting to deal with an issue anytime they want. I mean, that's not, if as I've said many times before, if the county board has the power to delegate that authority to a committee, the county board retains the power to address that issue on its own. you wouldn't have to hold a special nursing home meeting before you held a special county board meeting. Now that being said, we have committees for a reason, and they're there for a very, very good reason to kind of consider the issues and present findings to the county board prior to a decision of an issue. So it may not be advisable to hold a special meeting, but it's certainly allowable.
And I'm a strong believer in committee work. So if you can come up, please.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be up here again. So there were a few things to kind of dissect of what I just heard. So if we could kind of compartmentalize a few things and then talk on a bigger scale if we want. So let's talk about the numbers that we're talking about, especially between now and the end of the year. So this CNA program, which is very specific, only for nursing homes in Illinois, only for the one job classification, certified nursing assistant. The formula as it relates to Stephenson is the CNAs would receive approximately a $5.56 an hour raise. These are positions that are currently making $16 an hour. So a very significant amount of money. The majority of that money will be reimbursed, as Mr. Helms said, but won't be reimbursed until, let's say, February of 2023. So the outlay for between October 1st and December 31st would be approximately $56,000. That's $56,000 of which, again, the majority would be recaptured, but not until next year. And I know that can be an issue when we're talking about this year's budget versus next year's. Let me lay out the alternative. The alternative is we don't opt into the program. We already know that St. Joe's and Liberty have opted into the program, two of our competitors. There might be more. Those are just two that we know of, and we probably won't find out till after October 1st if any other competition is opted in. So kind of putting my logical hat on, we have people making $16 an hour that can now go somewhere else and make $21, $22 an hour. We're going to lose CNAs. I mean, it's just factual. Is it 1? Is it 15? I don't know. I picked the number 6, though. If we lose 6 CNAs, and not even in October, I use the formula starting November 1st, because maybe there'll be a transition period. So just for the 2 months, November 1st through December 31st, we have to replace 6 CNAs, and it could be more, but using 6, again, with agency, the cost will be $59,000. That's $59,000 that's not budgeted for and will never be gotten back. There's no reimbursement for it. It's $59,000 out the window versus $56,000 that for this year is out the window, but will be reimbursed in the first quarter of 2023. In a conversation earlier this week with the chairman, TCM, if it's an issue, that if what we just talked about is an issue, TCM is willing to loan that $56,000 to the county to be paid back sometime in 2023. Could work out details. It's not looking for an aggressive payback. We're not looking to get paid back until you get paid back for this quarter. So let me stop there and see if there's any questions on that.
Mr. Helms, go ahead.
Excuse me, what was the cost again to opt in?
$56,000.
And does that include the 5.14% IMRF, 7.65% FICA, the bonus pay, the insurance costs for new employees?
It included everything. There's only a 10% add-on. So if you're saying it was 12% between those two, then it's a couple percent short.
IMRF and FICA would be about 13% by themselves without the bonus pay that's already contractually out there.
Is it that high?
For coming into work on time and staying their whole shift. Yes, FICA and IMRF. IMRF is 5.14, FICA is 7.65, but you also have the insurance cost. So I'm fine with whatever number is out there, but I want a real number.
All the bonuses you talked about, they're all in there, okay, because those don't change. The only thing changing is the hourly. So the $5.56 an hour, we multiplied by 10% to cover the FICA and the IMRF. If that's not enough, then that number will be a little bit higher.
So what I'm asking though is not only just keeping your existing, but I'm assuming you're expecting to get some new CNAs, correct?
We are at virtually 3 shifts a week is what our need is right now.
Do you have any agency CNAs currently?
That's what I'm saying. We have 3 agency shifts a week that we've been averaging. So we're virtually not in need. I mean, we probably need 1 more CNA.
Okay, so no new employees, maybe 1, and you're still thinking it's around 58,000, give or take.
Correct. You can round up to 60 to maybe cover some of.
And just so I'm clear, on the reimbursement, and I believe this is what you told me, I don't have my notes from nursing. January 1st, you would file for reimbursement for October. Best case.
January 15th, probably.
Okay. Yeah. January filing for reimbursement for October. You hope to get paid at least by February, maybe March.
Correct. Probably end of February.
February, you're filing for reimbursement for November, and so on and so forth.
Correct.
So we'd have an approximate 5-month lag.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Miller, go ahead.
Thank you very much. If we are to raise the CNA's wages, is there an expectation that we would not also be raising the LPN wages to reflect that? I know we're struggling to find LPNs, or I've been told we're struggling to find LPNs. Is that not something that also needs to be addressed?
Right. So let me answer the question in 2 parts, because what I've heard throughout emails throughout the week and even at this meeting is...
I've not been privileged to those emails. So
right. So I'm going to talk through them both. Okay. So the first one is regarding... they both regard the union. Okay. So the first one that we just talked about, the CNA program. The union has agreed to sign a memorandum of understanding that we would draft, send to them, that says we will adopt the HFS CNA program. We will follow the rules, and there's no other negotiating in regards to this program. So if the program stops, or if we decide to opt out, there's no repercussions to us. There is no union negotiation. The ball is in our court. We opt in, it's our choice. We opt out, it's our choice. If the program ends, then the rates go back down. The union has nothing to say about it. They're willing to sign a document as soon as we send it over to them. So that's the CNA part. Now let's get to the LPN part. So separate issue, but within the existing CBA, there is the potential for a wage reopener effective January 1st of 2023. We would like to exercise that option because the LPNs per the CBA are at $21 an hour. There is no LPN in the country that will take $21 an hour at this point. It's a whole different world.
If you're paying that to a CNA.
But especially if we're paying that to a CNA. That's a good point. In the budget that we proposed, that again, as Ms. Anthony said, there's still a few tweaks over the next 10 days. In the budget, we proposed a much higher rate for LPNs, and we were able to balance the budget. And so we believe that, yes, we would like to reopen the CBA for LPNs to get them a higher rate. And we have the right to do it should we choose.
Did anybody reach out to Mr. Lowenbaum as far as if the other unions would have standing if we were to do that?
His concerns were not so much.
Your mic, something's wrong with your mic. Talking.
His concerns were not so much with opting into a state program than with other concerns with the wording that is in the current contract.
Right, but when we do open the LPN, which we're certainly going to have to do after we do this, isn't that going to prompt the other unions to want to come back to the table?
The reopener was in the contract, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Just curious. And then my other question for you, and maybe you can answer this, because I look at your numbers, and I really appreciate you putting them out every week, and then I look at what our finance director gives us, and they're wildly different, and they continue to be so. For example, as of September 30th, Ms. DeWall says that our balance is going to be about $35,789. Whereas I have cash projections here from Ms. Harris, showing a balance of September 30th of $227,000. Now, I understand that there's going to be some lost in translation here, but why are we so wildly different?
I don't have I apologize, I don't have our cash sheet in front of me. If someone has it, I could probably answer the question better.
Okay, well, I mean, you can look at it on my phone, but it's not helpful.
So what is our balance as of September 23rd, I think it would be?
September 23rd, you have a balance ending cash of $330,000, $330,213.19. But like I said, I wasn't looking at the 23rd, I was looking at the end of the month. I'm more concerned about where we end up at the end of the month. That's just how I do business.
So what is our September 30th?
Our September 30th is $227,508.04. Now, I have to go back to the other numbers. But like I said, they were roughly $35,789.65 with an entity that's flirting so close to the edge here a lot of the time. That's a big difference. And so I'm just looking for some clarification as to why these numbers are so different. And maybe I'm ambushing you a bit here, and if that's the case, I'm sorry. I'm just looking for some clarification. Because
are you looking at me? I was just turned. It was random.
Well, yeah, maybe the banker should be asking these questions, not the farmer. But this is, like I said, this just seems to be a continuing issue. And we'll get a balance sheet from the nursing home saying we're fine, we're going to be here. And I understand that numbers haven't come in where we wanted them to come in, but it seems to me like the same revenues are lining up. I mean, the Medicare or Medicaid, whatever came in, is showing on both sheets. But like I said, at the end of the day, the balance is wildly different.
All right, so I'm showing a September 30th balance of $82,000.
Okay, well then I'm confused because I got an email from Shannon on Tuesday with a cash flow here of, and maybe my
I pulled up one from agenda.
Oh.
That's my fault.
Okay.
So this is
okay.
This is an earlier one.
Okay, well if that's the case, and we're only $50,000 over, that's still on a budget that's only $30,000 in the black. That is something to be concerned about. And this seems to be an ongoing concern. So I'm just wondering who's not reporting what where that gets us to these different numbers. Because it's tough for us to make projections and plans if we don't know what's there. Especially when we're riding so close to the line all the time.
Right. I mean, I stand behind our sheet. I mean, one of the things that was voted on earlier tonight was paying all the bills. That's the first time we've been able to do that in a couple months. So we have yes. The numbers that you're looking at also, both in our projection and in Adrian's projection, is paying back the $95,000 first payment of the interfund loan is also being covered.
Right.
So we've made a lot of ground in collecting money. And as Ms. Anthony said earlier, the Medicare certainly took longer than we thought to turn the spigot back on, but no Medicare has been collected since April of 21. And so I do stand by our numbers, so they certainly seem to be coming in at this point.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's all I had at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Copley, go ahead.
You already answered my question.
Ms. Anthony, go ahead.
I think I can explain just a little bit of what you're asking for, Mr. Miller. And so, because TCM does accrual accounting, we've gone over this and like plenty of times on how that's different. So, what Adrian had just sent out doesn't include any revenue that the nursing home is projecting between today and September 30th. So there's going to be a discrepancy there for sure. And as Mike has spoken before, when these projections do come out, the previous week it comes in, goes back and does an actual, so you can see, what actually came in and how that difference, or what that difference was.
My concern between 30 and 230 is a little different than my concern between 30 and 80, but it's still a big difference, and that's a concern as we try to project forward what we're doing.
So, in the meeting, we had talked about, we had tabled this to the December meeting, but also left room for a special meeting should information change on the financials. And so when TCM said that they could provide the loan for the money to supplement the program, that changed the financial situation, which is why I was bringing it forth for discussion to see if it would be something, because it is time sensitive. You have to opt in by October 1st. So that's why I'm talking about it here to see if there would be interest in, in opting into this program to call those special meetings. So that's where it came from. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Helms, go ahead.
Well, I guess my memory must be going because I don't remember conversation about leaving room open for a special meeting. I originally made the motion to table until January so we could get the full 2022 financials. That was defeated. And I do recall Ms. Anthony saying, let's do it for December in case it looks like we are getting more revenue in than what we're actually experiencing right now. But the bigger question I have is, if I remember or heard you correctly, Mike, you said that you and the chairman met with the union. On whose authority did you negotiate on behalf of the county?
It was actually me that made the phone call one-on-one.
With whose authority? I mean, we have a labor attorney, and you're negotiating with the union on behalf of the county.
I'm giving the union a hypothetical. I wasn't negotiating. I don't have the authority to say yes or no.
Talk to them about a memorandum that we would not be stuck. There is no risk, is what you said.
And I stand by that.
That's not a hypothetical.
It's a hypothetical if we can get the board to approve it.
I'm talking
Would you agree to it?
Discussing with the labor attorney on behalf of the county. You did that all on your own. Nobody said you should call them and talk to them.
No, I've had several conversations over the last few months with the union.
On behalf of the county?
On behalf of the nursing home.
Yeah, see, that's...
It's what, you tell me not to do it, I won't do it anymore. It's what I've done for 30 years, though, as a management company.
I would ask our attorney if that's appropriate.
I can't make the deal, but I've always discussed the deal, and then ownership has to sign off on it. If you tell me I can't do that, I'm happy to back off.
Without the committee saying, hey, go talk to the union on our behalf about this, or the county board saying, go talk to the union on our behalf.
I mean, I talked to HFS on your behalf. I talked to other people.
It's not a union. We don't have a labor agreement with
understand.
HFS.
I think the bottom line is you tell me to back off. I have no authority. I will do that. Up until this point, in my mind, I believed as part of the management company, we have the authority to at least have discussions with the union.
Because you're operating as though it's a privately owned company, and it's not.
And if you tell me I can't, I will back off. It's a binary decision. I'll abide by whatever you say and the board says. There's no malicious intent here.
But it can have long-standing effect. And I'm glad you reached out to Lowenbaum to ask him what he thinks we would have, but he doesn't represent the unions. The unions can file a grievance regardless of whether it has merit or not, and they can demand to go to arbitration. I mean, it's just baffling to me how we're operating this on a wing and a prayer without thinking long-term of the implications of every decision. Every decision.
I wouldn't call that a prayer.
Anything, Mr. Helms? Okay. Just for the record, I did not meet with the union in, I forgot your name.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman, don't we have a union representative, a union negotiator for the nursing home?
Yes, that's Casey Anthony. She represents okay. So all I did is I told, me being in the union for 30 years and know how unions work and everything, I said, you better get a hold of Lowenbaum to see if it's going to affect other collective bargainings. And Lowenbaum said, no, it's not going to collect other collective bargaining units, but do you have any concern about the reopener? And he says, yes, I do have concerns. So I'm honest with the board, he has concerns on the reopening. But he does not have any concerns of other unions coming in. So, and that's what myself and Georgia heard when we were with talking to Mr. Lowenbaum. So with this being a touchy situation, I like to get a consensus from the board if they think that I should call a special meeting next week. So if you think I should call a special meeting next week, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No special meeting. Any?
Yeah, you just sabotaged the nursing home, because if they have till October 1st to make a decision on free money that they're gonna get, how are you not gonna discuss it? You can't.
I got a consensus.
You can't set this till December 1st. Unless you're saying, yes, I want to sabotage the nursing home. Thank you very much. Please let us get sabotaged, because I have an opportunity to bring in more money, and I'm gonna. And this is exactly what it looks like. Whether that's what you intended, maybe that wasn't even on the table.
No,
discussed it, but I'm just saying that's what it looks like.
Not sabotaging the nursing home. I get a consensus, and I'm not going to waste taxpayers' money of up to a tune of $1,800 plus mileage and everything. You know.
I'm not saying you're doing this on purpose, but
no.
My point is, it feels like we are sabotaging our own nursing home. That's what
we're just going to move on. You know. So, any other information out of your committee?
No.
Okay, we will move on to planning the development. No action items, any information out of your committee?
Yeah, on this month, the 30th, is it the 30th, that we have a special meeting, a UCCI meeting, executive board meeting, to try and plan and make sure that our October meeting is really good. And I want to thank Mrs. Baker. She went into a program that we started that was new, and just thank you for being involved. I hope there wasn't too many hiccups, because it's new to us and we haven't done it before. So thank you, and I hope others get a chance to do it as well. It's a great event. So I know there's some going down. I think you made mention of that. I hope everybody gets an opportunity to go down. It's going to be a great event this year. So go down in October. Enjoy the event. One other information item. We had some discussion in planning and development regarding a resolution that I'd like to bring forth next month. Last year, if you all recall, during budget time, we discussed possibly giving money to other organizations other than for our mill race project. But we didn't do that. We just moved forward and waited because we have time. We're not in a rush to use the last of our funds, but there should be almost $2 million that will still be available at some point. Maybe we don't have it all in the bank at once, but we get so much per month. But I'd like to bring forth a resolution that will allow every board member that's seated next year to put a small portion of money towards another organization in our community that also has requested or will request a few dollars through the ARPA funds. And if you remember, ARPA funds were for a lot of reasons and not just infrastructure projects, although it became one of the bigger things that our ARPA money was used for. I'm not going to go through a whole list of things, but it will give us an opportunity to do something within our community with organizations that we vet and are in good standing. And every board member will have the opportunity to put something towards that organization if the resolution goes forward. So I'd like to just kind of get if you would, Chairman, a census of who would like to enter into a resolution that will allow the board members to decide on a portion of where ARPA funds go next year, not this year, but next year.
Yeah, so the consensus, what just Mr. Newton talked about, if you think this is a great program, and could I see a raise of hands, please?
I'll say this, Winnebago did this. I think that was an ingenious way to give the board members who really have, for the first time, had the opportunity to really spend the money as you would do with representatives of the state or senators who pick projects. But county board members never get the opportunity to pick the project. They just get opportunities to say what, whole grants are used for. But this will allow every board member that's seated next year to say, I want to put some towards, maybe it's the fire department in your district or whatever it is, as long as they're in good standing, we would be able to put a small portion of funds to that project. And I'm talking less than 5% of what's left. So that's what I'm thinking.
Well, I guess if you like the program, so Mr. Newton could move ahead on a resolution, please raise your hands.
Mr. Chairman, are we discussing this first?
No, we're polling.
Polling, just.
I've got to bring something forward.
Yeah,
so. It's not a done deal.
It just gives him an idea if he's gonna move forward with it or not, so raise your hands if you think this is a good program. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 8. So Mr. Newton, 9, it's up to you, 9 people.
Well, thank you I will bring a resolution.
Okay.
We can vote the resolution up or down next month. Thank you.
Okay. Any more information? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Miller then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very briefly, road construction is wrapping up for the season. We got all the seal coat work done late. All we're waiting on is a final grade. And then we'll be doing a top layer of asphalt on top of a bit of a blacktop, which should turn out really nice. Of particular interest, Mr. Helm, the bridge at Cedarville is open as of today, I'm told.
Could be.
So traffic patterns will hopefully change for the better.
Don't travel it.
Very good news. Stephenson County was selected for 2 HSIP grants. That's Highway Safety Improvement Program grants through the federal government. One for $1 million to address guardrails in Stephenson County. The really exciting part about this is that we have approximately $5.5 million worth of guardrail improvements we'd like to do. And this is a renewing program that we can reapply for every year. So for the next 5 years, hopefully we will be able to get all that addressed. We also got an HSIP grant to improve highway safety, and that included putting rumble strips in center lines and putting new signage up on curbs, all in an effort to address where after Dale did a lot of research where the high traffic incident areas were. So that's that government cheese coming home. And I for one, out of our district, we received 2 grants. One other county received 1. So it's a credit to Dale and his folks who did the paperwork to get that done. And then one other note, our pound is flirting with full. So if anybody is looking for a new family member of a furry variety, I recommend going down to see Dr. County. There's a lot of pit bulls. I know there's some hesitancy. I have one. They are a fantastic dog. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to public comment. Anybody that'd like to make public comment, please step up there for 3 minutes. Is that on, Mr. Tombstone, or?
Hello? So I'm up here as an individual, Michael Fullerville. I'm appalled at the decision that was just made, or the lack of decision that was just made. This board I've seen over the past 6 months or so, and even going back and reading the minutes, 6 months before that, in regards to the nursing center only, not criticizing anything else. This board is responsible for the position that the nursing home has been in for the last year, for the lack of funds, for the lack of support of the building. If you want to sell it, if you want to do something with it, then just do it. But what you're doing now is a slow torture. You're hurting yourselves, you're hurting the county, you're hurting the taxpayers. You just pretty much said I'm going to throw $250,000 out the window because it's going to cost you money when the CNAs when they leave. And it's going to take a lot to get them back. In the meantime, agency CNAs will be coming in. It's a well-known fact that agency CNAs do not give the same care as a regular tenured CNA. So you have now put the facility in a position where it could compromise patient care. I'll just say it again, I'm appalled. Thank you.
Anybody else, public comment?
After they're done, I'm going up.
Okay, go ahead.
Jerry Clay, board member, what I'm appalled at is we got all these people that are just having money just shoveled to them from either the federal government or the state government or the county government, from some government. And they want to funnel it in because they get a chunk out of it into the system. And the bottom line is, we're not controlling the system anymore. They are. They're controlling how much you're going to pay. They're controlling how much we're going to charge somebody. They're running the whole system, and they're appalled at us. Wow. If somebody came to my business and told me, here's what you're going to charge, or here's what you're going to pay, it'd be like, you see that black road out there? Hop on it. Because I run my business. I'm the one that decides those things, not somebody else. I don't take a penny from the civil government. I don't owe them nothing. But they're trying to run every one of our lives. They're especially trying to run this county's business. And it's time for this board to say, no, you don't get to run our business. That's why, when we become adults, we start paying our own bills. And that's a real step in progress when you start paying your own bills. And somebody else is not paying your bills for you. You're paying your bills. You're earning that money. You're paying the bills. You're the boss. It's time to take our boss position back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else, public comment, 3 minutes? I see nobody else. We will move on to new business, and we have A resolution to, approval of a resolution for the appointment of Georgia Newcomer to the Northern Illinois Land Bank Board of Trust. This is a decision that I made to put her on the Board of Trust because I was looking at other counties and municipalities, and they've been putting their city managers and their county administrators on this. And this
Motion
is
to
part.
approve the appointment. Second.
Okay, second. And any discussion? See none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.